You're listening to The Topcast, the original podcast for growth-minded instrumental music and voice teachers since 2015, with your host, Tim Topham. Our mission at Top Music is to empower instrumental music and voice teachers to find and nurture their innate creativity so that they can teach lessons that are innovative, integrated, and inspiring, and that will have a positive, lifelong impact on their students. Join us each week as we interview teachers and creators from around the world and unpack fun and exciting ideas to maximize your teaching and studio business success. Hi there, teachers. Welcome back to the Topcast. Great to be spending a little bit of time with you again today. Now, have you already switched to monthly automated studio billing? I know for lots of teachers out there, it's still something that is, on the to-do list, hasn't quite happened yet. And there are always questions coming through about how to do it. Now, in today's episode, I'm not going to talk so much about why you should be doing it, because I've already written about that before at a really comprehensive blog post, which is over at topmusic.co/monthly. That's all about why you should 100% switch to some sort of automated billing, whether that's monthly or termly or semesterly or whatever it is. Automating your billing is so useful, helpful, handy. It saves time. I go through it in the article, so I won't go through it now. But on today's podcast, I wanted to talk about the actual process, which is about the calculations. How do you actually work out how much to charge and what kind of things should you consider? So we'll go through that in today's episode. The other thing that I talk about in today's episode is the software that you can use to automate it. And I mentioned My Music Staff a few times. I also want to recommend to you Fons, F-O-N-S. Both these two software packages are great for studios with fewer than 100 students. That's kind of their perfect size. And mainly for solo teachers working from home, it's fantastic. Both those packages we have significant discounts and special bonuses for over inside our Top Music Pro membership. So if you're a Top Music Pro member listening to this and you are looking to switch up and change over to monthly automated billing and use one of those two packages, then make sure you do go and have a look at the discounts that are available to you inside our academy. And of course, if you're not yet a Top Music Pro member and this is something that interests you, then make sure you come and join us. topmusicpro.com has all the details. All right, let's jump straight in. I popped a blog post up a little while ago about how to actually convert to monthly billing after I did it myself in my studio just this year. And more recently, I actually created a worksheet, which you can download from the same site. And it just takes you step by step how to actually calculate the changes that you need and what figures to put in when you choose some software that will allow you to automate this. Now, I don't want today to talk a whole lot about the pros and cons and why you should consider doing this, because it's all in the blog post, which you'll find at timtopham.com/monthly. Really easy to read flow of a good explanation there about why this is an approach that I've taken and why I encourage as many people to do it as possible. But to just summarize very quickly, the great benefit, of course, of monthly billing is that you have steady regular income. Parents know exactly what they're going to be paying. And the best part is that you can automate the entire process. So once it's set up, you don't have to worry at all about asking parents to pay. They don't have to worry about remembering to pay, and it just all happens seamlessly in the background. Now, I actually use some software called My Music Staff, which is what I recommend to do this. It's really easy to set up, and I actually, on that post, have a video of me showing you how to set that up. So it's all there for you. But one part of the process I didn't explain in detail is actually how to calculate what to charge and how it actually should work. So I'm going to take you step by step through it. It's not going to take too long. It's a 4-step process. And again, if you're interested, I'm actually just following the information that I've got on this very handy download here. So step 1 is to work out your actual rates. So what are you actually going to be charging for your lessons? Because that's going to impact on everything else that's going on. Step 2 is all about the number of lessons that you'll be teaching during the year. You need to know that to work out the actual number of lessons, the monthly charge, because it's all going to be calculated together. So that's step 2. I'll show you that in a second. Step 3 is all your admin and professional development costs. You need to factor all that stuff in. Well, you don't have to, but it makes sense to, because you can package it all together then. And I love the fact that if you're thinking ahead, you can actually charge your students as part of their general fee, costs to attend conferences, costs for memberships and subscriptions, all that kind of stuff. And the administration of your studio all ends up being included in this. And then step 4 is going to be the actual calculation, how to actually work out the amount to charge people. So I'm going to show you that one last, but let's just start with step 1, firstly, and talk about rates. So what I've got on the sheet is for you to work out a per hour rate and a per 45-minute rate, and then a per 30-minute rate. Now, you only need to work out those 3 if you teach all 3 of those lesson lengths. Now, personally, I teach 45s and 60s, so I don't have to worry about the 30-minute length. But depending on what types of lessons that you run, the duration you run, you'll need to work out your rate. And if you start by the hour, you can obviously easily calculate these other 2. You can multiply your hourly by 0.75 to find out your 45-minute rate, and by 0.5 to work out your 30-minute rate. So what is your hourly rate? That is your first step. Work out what that is, and please don't undersell yourself, guys. I know there can be a lot of competition from music schools charging just silly, cheap kind of rates. Don't fall into that trap, and don't undercharge for your work. You are worth the time and money that you charge, and you need to make sure you do charge that. If you are in a highly competitive market and you are feeling that you're undercharging but you can't charge anymore, then what you need to look at is some of my resources on marketing and differentiation, because it's being different that will set you apart from the others and allow you to charge the amount that you're worth. Okay, so that's step 1. That's fairly straightforward, and you're going to be using those figures when we come to step 4, which is the calculation. So step 1 is the rates. I'll just write that here again. Work out your rates. So I've done that one. So step 2 is working out the number of lessons per year. Number of lessons per year. So let's talk about this one now. This is the number of lessons that parents will pay for up front when you start charging them the monthly fee. So what I tend to work out is 3 things. Firstly, the number of months teaching. So that's kind of part 1. How many months in the year are you actually going to be teaching? It might be 12. You might spread your teaching over the entire year. But it might be 10, because if you're in the States, I know that July and August is often 2 months when not much teaching happens. So work out how many months worth of teaching you would like to do. If you'd like to be paid for the whole year, then this should be 12. If you actually know that, you know what, over here in January, I don't teach anyone and it's a little bit unfair for me to ask for money for that month, then maybe you're on 11. I actually started this in February this year, so I went for 11 because I'm charging my parents between February and December. So work out how many months you're going to be teaching, and therefore how many months over the year that this will be split. The second thing is the expected number of lessons, per student per year. Now this can vary a little bit. When I was working at schools, some of them would go for 40 lessons in a year. Others would be more realistic, knowing how many interruptions everyone has and how many holidays there are, that maybe it's more like 30. I think personally, I've gone for 35 weekly lessons per year. That works for my studio, which means that for my fortnightly students, and I have some of those, they'll be on 17 lessons. So work out how many lessons you expect to give each student over the course of that year. That's a really important number, and you're going to need to keep track of it to make sure that parents are actually getting the number of lessons that you have stated. Okay, so that's step 2, working out the number of lessons that you'll be teaching over in the year. All right, let's move on now to step number 3, is admin charges, admin and PD. So for this, I want you to think about all of those costs that should be incorporated into the amount that students pay. So if you have a printing cost, a resources cost, what else have we got? Stationery and binding. If you provide people with binders and books and assignment books, perhaps you could include even your recital and event costs in here, so you're not then charging parents again a bit later on. Definitely include in here things like memberships, your subscriptions to software, perhaps, any of those kinds of things. Conferences, workshops, The more you can include here, the better, because you can then package it up and sell it as a one amount that parents have to pay, and you're not then constantly asking them for more or digging into your own pocket for things that really should be covered by your business. So on the sheet, as an example, you can see this admin and professional development charges. So I've got examples there of the kinds of things you would have. And what we're going to end up with is a total expenses. So perhaps it's, I don't know, almost $2,500 per year. You're going to have then the number of students. So number of students. So let's say you've got, I don't know, 10 students, doesn't really matter. So the expenses per student, just to keep it simple, would be $235. So you're going to be adding $235 to each student's annual total lesson charge in order to cover the cost of your own professional development and your administration and things like that. Now that is sensible business. I would highly recommend you look to see how you can incorporate these costs into your business structure. Okay, so that is step number 3. I'll try and do this without breaking my whiteboard this time. So the last step is to actually do the calculation. So let me show you step by step how to actually do that. And this is kind of the most crucial part of it, I guess, to make sure that you're actually going to put into your software that's going to automatically bill your parents the right amount. Okay, so what I've got and suggested is for each student that you do this for, so you have a student name, their lesson time or lesson duration, and then let's talk dollars per lesson. For example, let's say they're on hourly lessons and they're paying $90 per lesson. So we're going to multiply that by the number of lessons per year, which you did in step number 2. So times by number of lessons that they're going to be given. So let's say that's 35. So we're going to end up with 3150. So that's the total amount for the lessons that they'll be paying over the course of the year. Now, what we need to do is grab that number and add the admin fees. So the admin and PD that we did in step 3. So we add that. So let's say that was $235 per student. We said in our little example before. So we're now up to 3385. So that's now the total cost per student for their particular lessons over the course of the year, including your administration and professional development charges. So all that's left to do with that figure is to divide it by the number of months that you're going to be teaching. So we'll put that down on the new line here, 3385. Let's say we're going to teach 10 months of the year and we're going to be paid over the course of 10 months of the year. Therefore, monthly charge is $338.50 per month. And so if you made this divide by 12, that would mean that you would charge every single month of the year, even if perhaps they weren't having lessons for a couple of months. Okay, and that would change this amount. So I hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions, do let me know. If you're live on this call now, I can see there are people live. If you've got questions, please ask them, type a question, and I'll do my best to answer it. If you're watching the replay, then please do the same, because I go through all my comments for videos, regardless of whether they're live or replays. So if you've got questions, please use this chance to ask them. So I do hope you can still see that, even though my whiteboard went a bit crazy. It's fairly step by step, to be honest with you. But what I did really wanted to do was just remind you that you can actually see this whole process in action on this sheet. So rates, number of lessons per year, professional development and admin costs, and then your final calculations for each student. And to actually download this and have it, particularly if it's your first time doing this, I think can be really, really valuable. So to grab that, timtopham.com/monthly, it's all there for you. There's also a whole lot of questions that people have asked and I've answered on that same blog post. So if you've got some other questions, but you don't want to ask them to me now, that's fine. Have a look at the blog post because there's lots of great questions there. Elizabeth says, do you charge the same admin fees for students who have lessons every other week or have shorter lesson times? Yeah, so I tend to split. It's a really good question. Obviously, if you're teaching weekly students versus someone that you might only see monthly, then perhaps it's a little bit unreasonable that you charge all of them the same amount of admin fees. So it's a good point. I haven't factored that in here, but you could structure it so that you're charging different admin rates depending on how often you see the student. Or you know what, you could keep it relatively straightforward and pop it all together. But the difference between weekly and fortnightly students, I personally wouldn't worry too much about it. I think it's going to come out in the wash and they're going to get great teaching and value from it and from all your professional development and things like that anyway. Great question though, Elizabeth. So any other questions, please let me know. It'd be really good to hear from you. In the meantime, just have a think about this and whether it would work in your studio. And really, for me, it's just so much simpler. That's why I love it. I don't have to think about billing. I set this up in February and I haven't had to think about students or billing. So the software that I've chosen, I mentioned before, My Music Staff, once parents have entered their own information in there, so they get their own login, they can log in. I don't do any paperwork for parents anymore. It's just, not something that I want to spend time on. So they actually get a login, they put their credit cards in and they click yes, I'm happy to be billed automatically. And every month, 3 days before the start of the month, they get an invoice saying you're about to be charged this. First of the month, the money comes into my account and it's all done through PayPal and Stripe. So all done through, actually it's not done through PayPal, all done through Stripe with credit cards. And I don't keep any of that credit card information and nor will you. So it's all sort of safe. You don't have to worry about security of your own website or anything like that. It's all done and handled by other people. So yes, there's a small monthly charge for this software, but you can actually test this out if you're a member of my community. We all get 90 days free access, a special deal that My Music Staff has given me and my members. You can grab that and then test it out for 3 months, which is a pretty cool deal to get started. So do consider that, and please don't waste your time writing out things for parents, invoicing them, getting checks, all this kind of stuff. It's not worth it. It's a waste of time. You should be spending your time doing far more interesting things than that, in my opinion anyway, unless you particularly really like kind of doing admin stuff. I certainly don't. I'd much prefer to be teaching or planning lessons or practicing. Wouldn't that be a nice idea for us all? It's so hard to do, isn't it? Nice to see Heather, Kathy as well. Guys, if you've got any other questions, then please do let me know. I'm going to start wrapping up this in a very short amount of time. And I hope that's been helpful for you. Again, the best place to find out more about why I've taken this approach and why I recommend it is at timtopham.com/monthly. Really easy, step-by-step sort of instructions. And I've got one video on there right now showing you how I actually set up the monthly billing. So you can actually watch me on My Music Staff on my computer. And thanks to Sarah Campbell too, who's just been putting up some more My Music Staff videos recently. I'm going to be sharing another one of those to show you what parents see when they use this software. It's just brilliant. There are other alternatives, I'm sure, around, but I do like it because, well, one, it's got great support and it's really easy to set up. So I hope that's been of use to you. Again, you'll be able to see all the information that you need on the download.
Well, I hope all of that makes sense. And if you would like to grab the actual calculation worksheet that I mentioned today, then just head over to topmusic.co/monthly. That's also where the blog post about why you should be changing over is. And there's also a huge Q&A there where people have asked me questions and I've answered lots of them there. So if you have a question, it may well have already been answered on that post. So make sure you go and check that out. I do hope you consider changing over to some sort of automated billing process. It really is the way to go moving forward. If you are running a studio, it'll save you so much time, so many headaches, and it's just great to get one more thing off your admin to-do list, right? Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Next week on the podcast, we get to meet our Top Music Sheets composer for June, the amazing Anna Robinson, an Australian composer. She's fantastic. Can't wait to share the music that she's created for us this time next week. Until then, I'm Tim Topham, and you've been listening to the Topcast. It's been great hanging out with you. I hope it's been helpful, and I'll speak to you really soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages, both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today. If you enjoy this show and want to hear more of our work, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening today. For links and resources mentioned in this episode, visit us at topmusic.co/podcast or check out the show notes. I'm Tim Topham. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your week ahead, and I'll catch you next time.